We live in a world that is constantly starving. People hunger for food, certainly, but they also carry a deep, persistent starvation for meaning, purpose, and a sense of peace that survives when things get tough. Thousands of years ago, the prophet Isaiah diagnosed exactly how we try to fix this. He observed that human instinct is to treat spiritual starvation like a transaction. We try to purchase happiness using currencies like wealth, career success, and temporary pleasures. But that creates a strange paradox. People spend their entire lives accumulating these things, only to reach the top and feel completely empty. The very things designed to fill the void often end up hollowing it out further. Material solutions are simply the wrong tool for the job. They are incapable of curing a spiritual scarcity. The human heart operates on a different economy, and it requires a completely different type of fulfillment. You can see this exact dynamic play out in the Gospel of Matthew. Jesus is standing before an immense crowd of thousands. These people had followed him into the wilderness, and they were completely exhausted, starving physically, but also starved for hope. Look at how his closest disciples react. They look at the massive crowd, calculate their own incredibly limited resources, and immediately panic. They default to what we can call the scarcity mindset. Their advice to Jesus is simply, send the people away. That reaction is incredibly familiar. When we are crushed by heavy crosses, the family conflicts, or sudden illnesses, or financial ruins that St. Paul writes about in Romans 8, our modern instinct is to withdraw. We assess the deficit, feel overwhelmed, and isolate ourselves. Relying strictly on human calculation in the face of immense suffering always ends in a deficit. The math simply doesn't work, leaving our deepest needs completely unmet. Jesus, however, introduces a completely counterintuitive response to the crisis. Instead of logistical panic, he looks out at the overwhelming crowd and feels a profound, deeply rooted compassion. Jesus shows that true service begins with the eyes. He sees the suffering and allows himself to feel it before taking a single step, ensuring that his following actions are born from love rather than a sense of obligation. Then he turns to the panicked disciples and makes a seemingly impossible demand. Knowing they possess only 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish, he tells them, "You give them something to eat." He doesn't ask them to find more resources. God deliberately chooses our points of greatest limitation and inadequacy as the exact starting line for his intervention. On one side, 5 loaves and 2 fish. On the other, a massive crowd. The transformation begins when these maker supplies are placed into Jesus' hands. As the bread is blessed, physical limits disappear. The resources multiply and spread, reaching every person until everyone is satisfied. We can apply this to our daily lives. Our modern loaves and fish are microscopic acts, a tiny bit of faith, a visit to a sick neighbor, a brief moment of forgiveness. God does not require us to possess the total solution to the world's pain. He only asks for the willingness to offer the fractional, seemingly inadequate resources we already hold. This miracle continues to ripple through time, shaping how we encounter God in our own lives today. We experience the ultimate manifestation of this multiplication in the Holy Eucharist. Jesus still takes bread, blesses it, breaks it, and gives it to us. It serves as the primary living fuel for our modern spiritual journey. And because of this continuous divine nourishment, St. Paul offers an absolute guarantee in his letter to the Romans. No external hardship, sickness, persecution, or poverty can ever separate us from the love of Christ. Receiving this divine abundance redirects our purpose. We stop being passive consumers of grace, and we become active distributors of hope in a hungry world. This leaves us with an ultimate invitation. We are called to become the very hands and heart of Jesus, stepping directly into the starving environments of our own homes, workplaces, and communities. Consider your own life. What hunger do you carry in your heart right now that you need to surrender and bring to Jesus? Next, look at your resources. What are your personal 5 loaves and 2 fish? What specific gifts, time, or fractional resources can you offer to God for the service of others? Finally, look outward. Is there someone around you today who is desperately hungry for a little love, a word of encouragement, forgiveness, or just practical everyday help? Curing the scarcity in the lives of those around us begins with trusting that we already have enough to share. May you have a profoundly grace-filled week. With prayers and blessings from Father Arul, SVD.